So I dated the hood guys. I'm listen, okay? I dated the drug dealers and the
Self-incrimination.
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I dated the bad guys, right? But even when I stepped aside from those bad guys and I dated someone who wasn't necessarily quote unquote a bad guy, he wasn't out here doing illegal stuff. He was still the same guy that I was just dating that was the drug dealer, right? He just wasn't a drug dealer. That was the difference. He dropped that part.
Yeah.
His character was still the exact same guy. He had no morals.
He didn't have any morals at all?
No, he had it wasn't a lot of.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying every black woman that I know that formerly was with a black man and is now either married or with a white man is happy. I don't know why.
So I totally know. I'm a dating coach. I've been a dating coach for 13 years for black and brown women. And I want you all to know that a black woman and a white man combination has one of the lowest divorce rates. There are a couple of reasons for that. One, if a white man is actually engaged, married to, or dating a black woman, please understand that there is a deeper love there because he is having to actually fight against societal pressures and indoctrination and go through all of the stares and the rude comments to be with you, and vice versa. Second thing, if that man has such an open-mindedness about him, he is going to be less concerned about gender roles and help out around the house and do things that maybe an alpha male or a hyper masculine energetic person wouldn't necessarily do. Third, white men are unfortunately have twice the graduation rate of black men. So that combined with the ascending education that's happening for black women means that there is a level of educational equality happening there in hypergamy, which, higher educated people have a lower divorce rate as well. Fourth, because of the education and obviously privileges, white men make almost 50% more than black men. So they can provide for black women and they're not necessarily going to feel as competitive with them as many black men do. Fifth, because they have the money and they're potentially more stable, what will happen is they'll be able to get married sooner. The average marriage age for a white man is 30. The average marriage age for a black man is closer to 35. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm sure that many of your girlfriends have been waiting around for X, Y, and Z to get ready to get married, but he just hasn't been there from a financial perspective. Again, I want someone who is going to be the best person for you, and sometimes that might be a non-black man. I want to be very clear here. The marriage rate for black women is 29%, or close to half of other racial groups. Black women are the only group that has a higher divorce rate than a marriage rate. For every 1,000 black women that are married, 31 of them are getting a divorce. For every 1,000 unmarried black women, only 17 of them are getting married. This is the only group where this happens. And because 90 to 95% of you all are getting involved with and marrying black men, we've got to try something different for a different result. So if you want to learn how to add something new to your roster, book a call with me and I can help you do that.
So the first thing I would say is you got to be very, very wary of people that are coaches that are coaching you to exclude a whole particular group based off of things that we can't really necessarily say that reflect the whole of that particular group. The situation that is being presented here is that they didn't say all, but the first guy opened up and he's just like, every black woman I know. Well, not every black woman he knows, but every black woman that he knows that left the black community dating system to go and date outside with the Caucasian community system. Every girl or every black woman that he knows that did that follow that same type of thread, they're happy now. Well, the first question I have to ask is, well, how many do you know, brother? How many of these sisters do you know that did that and are, happy? Because there's also a flip side to that. There are also those that left this scenario and aren't happy, left that scenario and found themselves in pretty bad situations that they could find themselves in any group, whether it's a race scenario, a economic scenario, however you want to paint that. We got to be careful of excluding a group that you are a part of based on 5 or 6 relationships that you've had in your lifetime. That's what 0.00002% of the population of men that you have to choose from, of the men that look like you. That's an insane thing to do, to exclude those men out. To me, it's weird that you would have a coach coaching you to find something better based on possibly the skin color of a particular demographic. And honestly, this can be said about both sides. I think you can find Black men that would say the same thing about Black women. I think we are constantly falling into a trap of trying to say that one race, or just completely comparing ourselves to another race instead of trying to fix the problems that we have within our own race. My thing is this. Sometimes in these scenarios where we say, well, Black women have this percentage of divorce rate, they're the highest, we're the only group that this happens in, I think we have a very specific set of issues that we have to deal with within our community that helps, foster those numbers and leads to that space of divorce. And the thing is this, it's not always just the men. Sis, sometimes it's you. Especially if it's been, several relationships and you're getting divorce after divorce after divorce. Now, I won't sit here and act like some men aren't the issue, but we got to stop acting like men are the only issue in this community. It's just simply not true. And frankly, with the friends that I do have that I know of stand-up gentlemen, it's kind of nonsensical to keep placing this level of I don't even know, this level of destructive mindset out to the masses. Because again, like I always say, the younger generation is always watching this. And for the adult generation, the millennials and the Gen Xers, to keep spouting this type of nonsense. And now you have scenarios where you have women spouting this in our community. And now you have some men spouting this nonsense about other men in the community, as if we don't understand that we are not a monolith. We don't all act the same. Would I sound crazy if I just put all Black women in a group setting and just said that, hey, I think that all Black women are trash. I think they're hypersexual. I think that they just sleep around with anybody. They are the reason why there is such a high level of STD spread going on. That would sound ridiculous, and let's say
be very much false
and disrespectful. Like I would say, well, as you look at the sexy reds and the Sukiyanis out there, that's how all Black women act. That would be insane, because I know plenty of Black women who have good sense. And they don't act like that. And I can't categorize them based on that. Could I say that all Black women have an attitude problem, just mean, don't want to cooperate, got a chip on their shoulder, just angry all the time? You know the trope, Black women got this, they just angry Black women. I would be crazy to say that all Black women are just angry and don't want to cooperate, don't want a husband, want to be single and independent. Now, we have a few that like to scream from the mountaintops that they are single and independent and they don't need a man. And that's always publicized. But it would be absolutely asinine for me to say that all black women are like this. And then to step on a mass marketed platform and say, hey, dudes, if you want to learn how to get some better women, let's go on over to the Caucasian side. Let's go on over to the Asians. Let's go on over to the Latinas. I will be just as bad as people like to say the passport bros are. That would be pretty silly, and I don't think I would have a leg to stand on because I would be basing that off of a couple interactions that I had within a relationship with a black woman. Because the average adult has 5 to 6 relationships in their lifetime, 5 to 6 serious relationships. So all of those relationships went wrong. You didn't have any good ones. Now the question I have to ask is, who is the common denominator in that? Is it possible that it's something that you need to work on within this particular setting, this relationship field? Maybe it's something going on inside of you that causes you to think that no one else is the problem when you are actually the one doing the inflicting of the issues in the relationship. Is it something that you didn't get while you were a kid that will cause you to think outwardly about this towards a whole group of men that you haven't even met or dealt with the mass majority of them? You only dealt with I just not even a handful. When you take into account it's 20 million black men out there. Yes, there are some in jail. Yep. Some of them are hood. Some of them, and I hate to say this word, but since y'all like to use this so much and y'all will understand it, Pookies and Ray Rays. Some of them do fit into that category, but then you also have the black businessmen, the black men who are looking out for the community, reaching out and actually trying to mentor the kids out there and trying to make sure that they're not growing up, shooting and killing each other or selling drugs or falling into the trap of this school to prison pipeline. It's plenty of black men out here doing this. Y'all just aren't in position to be with them. Y'all not in the right areas. Y'all not running in the right circles. And some of you may be in the right circles, but you just haven't found that particular one that's for you. That could also be possible because you're not going to vibe with every single person you get with. And let's be honest, are all of the relationships ending in abuse? Physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. It's so many things. Are you being cheated on in every relationship? And I can hear I've been cheated on in every relationship. And that may be true for some of you. But to be completely honest, I don't think that's true for everybody.
Oh, it's my turn?
Yes, your turn. I'm sorry.
So my whole issue with it is I don't know the statistics. I can't confirm, deny, argue with whatever statistics they're rolling out. My whole thing is we have to stop just saying, okay, I'm not going to date this race. I take the same issue with men who are like, I'm not going to date black women. Black women are awful. Like that's a problem. We have to look at the pool in which we're dating from. I think I've said this before. I dated quite a few men before I started dating my husband. Not all of them were horrible. They were all black. I've only dated one guy outside my race. I couldn't deal with the pressure. I did. I couldn't deal. It was literally one day. It was one day. I couldn't deal with the pressure. Okay. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point I'm making is all of the guys I dated before my husband, except for one or two, were basically the same guy. They were horrible. So at the end, he says, if you want to try something different, I implore you to simply try something different. I'm not saying don't date outside your race. If you want to do that, by all means, go for it. But don't sit here and say, I'm not going to date this particular race, which I am a part of, because everyone I've dated from here is just horrible, right? Because from my own personal experience, almost everyone I dated within my race were less than good. They were. I cheated on, emotional abuse, the whole 9 yards. But there were some good guys in there. I myself was not ready for that. I never dated anyone I went to college with. everyone that I dated was either much older, off doing their own thing, weren't in college, were from back home, or something like that. I never dated within the pool in which I walked in. The educated brothers, the ones who were trying to do something with themselves. And it could have been because of the background that I came from, right? I grew up in the hood. I grew up with street dudes, so that's what I wanted at the time. So I had to pluck myself out of that and go and find something different. Right? Again, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with saying, I want to go and try this flavor over here, whatever, that's fine. But don't exclude this flavor because you got it from Baskin Robbins and it didn't work. Go on down the street to Cold Stone and try it from there. Okay? It might be a little bit different, might taste a little bit better. They might have a little extra something in it. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, my whole issue is we like to say all. When it's not all, it's all of who you are dating, right? And I know y'all don't like this, but we have to learn to pick better. That's just the reality of it. Someone cannot be invited into your circle, into your life, into your realm, unless you invite them in. So you have to pick and choose who you are allowing into your world. Again, date whoever you want to date. If the Hispanic guy sitting next to you is cute and he giving the right vibe, by all means, date him. But don't exclude the black dude that's sitting next to you just because he's black. That's just, it's stupid to me. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, it's nonsensical. And so when you look at this situation, right? Because I may have misconstrued what you were saying, but it sounded like you were saying that the dudes that you dated, most of them were not good.
No, and they were the same dude over and over again.
Oh yeah, so that's one problem. And I know you'll have someone say, "Well, we're not just dating hood guys," but a lot of times you do date a specific character,
right? And even if they're not hood guys, right? So I dated the hood guys. I'm listening. Okay. I dated the drug dealers and the
self-incrimination.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I dated the bad guys, right? But even when I stepped aside from those bad guys and I dated someone who wasn't necessarily quote unquote a bad guy, he wasn't out here doing illegal stuff. He was still the same guy that I was just dating that was the drug dealer, right? He just wasn't a drug dealer. That was the difference. He dropped that part.
Yeah.
His character was still the exact same guy. He had no morals.
He didn't have any morals at all?
No, he had it wasn't a lot of them.
So, and it's interesting because sometimes I don't think people are truthful with themselves or truthful with others
that is where we fail.
When they ask, when they're asked why are you dating this type of dude? And it always falls into, well, I thought he was XYZ in the beginning. And I don't know if I believe that in the very beginning. I think a lot of times, things are being overlooked because you are sexually attracted to a certain individual, because I don't know how you can look at certain individuals' background, see what they're doing presently, and see an actual future with this type of a character.
Because you think that you can change them, right? So I picked myself up out of this situation. I can make you do better too. We can grow together. You don't have to live this life. These are real life conversations that I have had. You don't have to do this, right? Look at me. I came from the same place and here I am off in college, getting an education, and I'm going somewhere. Come with me. I don't want to leave you behind. Come with me. Let's do this together. So you see all the wrong, but you think that you can change it. I'm going to be the one to make it better.
But
you're going to change for me. And that's really what it is. I'm worthy enough for you to change so that we can be together.
So 2 things, please remember that because I might not remember it later. 2 things. This makes me think about how it's always often said that black women are always standing in a gap for black men. These are the black men that we are protecting. It's not necessarily the black man that is necessarily made it, has the success, or is quote unquote the good guy, which is, being good It depends on who you ask. But those black men don't need the protecting. Though the type of black dude that you just described, that you gotta have this type of motherly conversation with,
And you live in survival mode, and you're not able to drop that guard and walk into your
right. So I'm saying those type of black men that you have to have this motherly discussion with, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. Those are the ones that you're protecting. But those are the ones that also, a lot of times black women like to be like, I ain't your mother. But in some ways, to those young men, you are. If you're trying to change them in a certain way, if you see them going down the wrong trajectory, you trying to be the stand-up woman in society and to help them change. It's not your job necessarily to mentor those men. It is really up to other men to mentor those men. But you got to mentor them at a certain level. Once they get to a certain level, it's almost, you got to separate. You got to get rid of them.
Disagree.
And when I say get rid of them, I don't mean like wipe them off the face of the planet. I mean like you can't particularly, concern yourself with these men. And that sounds harsh, but the problem is, it's just like you have the woman who is successful, especially in our community, who has made it to a certain level and to a certain age and has been doing things a certain way, right? She is set in her ways and she doesn't feel the need to change for you, which she shouldn't change for you. She should change for herself. But she has gotten to a point to where this is working for me. And if I'm going to let you come into my life, then you're going to have to be on my program, because I've been doing this by myself for so long and this works for me. So there's no need for me to change. You can't tell me anything. That's the same thing with these dudes, I believe. They've been doing something a certain way for a certain amount of time, and they're a grown man. A lot of times they're hyper masculine. And another man coming in trying to tell them how to live their life, that's difficult for them to accept. And more than likely, they're not going to accept. And I know you're going to say something about it's not the women's place to do it. No?
That's not what I'm going to say.
You're going to say that it's men's place?
What I'm going to say is, for those men who are not willing to allow the men into their lives, that is where the women come in at. Our issue is we can't cut off the romantic aspect from it. I can mentor you without being romantically involved with you. And I think that is where the lines get blurred.
I think the problem...
I can help you along the way, because most men won't change for you, but they will change for a woman.
That's a problem, though.
It's the reality, though.
So I can agree and disagree with that. The woman can't necessarily mentor a man into how to be a man.
No.
Now,
I can agree with
that.
Now,
what she can do is help him be a better man, but he has to be in the man's mind. Well, hold on. He has to be in the man's mindset first, right? I don't see how you step in and actually get a man to change who is not wanting to do it for you in a romantic way. He shouldn't be trying to change for you anyway. He should be trying to change for himself, because he sees a better future for himself, and he sees the way that he's living now is detrimental to himself and to society and to those that will follow him, especially because a lot of these dudes have kids, right? If he sees that, if he's able to see that, I think that's when he'll be able to start making a change. But where I agree with you is this: Charleston White, and a lot of y'all don't like him, but he basically said to, I think her name is Princella, I can't remember her name. He said to her that you can have a room, and I'm paraphrasing, of men who are thuggish and just acting up and acting a fool. You can have a room full of those men, and if a quote unquote 304 walks in, they gonna continue to act the same way because they don't respect her. But if you have a stand-up woman who commands respect into a room, and it's like a lady and you can see the power of the woman in her, he'll straighten up. He'll stop cussing, stop talking a certain type of way, stop just acting like a fool. And that goes for any age across the board, from a little boy
That's
all
my
the way.
point.
I understand. Yes, I get what you say. That's why I say I can disagree,
Okay.
and I agree with you. That's why I wanted to kind of expand on that just a little bit. He'll start acting like he has some sense at that point. But the problem is, how many women are able to command that type of respect?
But it's the same situation where I talk about us picking from a different pool, right? So because of the environment in which I grew up with, this is what I was surrounded with. So you run into the same situation with these boys and these men. Because of the situation that they are surrounded with, they're surrounded with, and y'all get mad as you want to. I can say this because I grew up in this situation. But you're surrounded with the hood, the ghetto, the ignorant women who feed into your foolishness, who allow you to continue to do what you're doing
Because they're doing it for them.
because it benefits me in this way. But when you have someone, because even though I dated these guys and they weren't necessarily the best guys, they were good to me. Except for being faithful, like that. That's a different story. But the way they treated me was different from the way that they treated the girls from around the way, right? Because I commanded a bit of respect. I still wasn't where I needed to be, right? But I was above the girls from the area in which I was raised in, because I chose to be outside of it. And then I went off and I learned more. So that is my point. Even the guys that I dated, most of them are no longer in the game. Some of them are dead or in jail. They had nothing to do with me. But some of them,
That's a shame.
some of them have gone on to do better. They live regular lives. They're no longer in the streets, right? They've settled down. They're in relationships. They're raising their kids, type of deal. I can't say that it was because of me. I like to think that I laid some foundation there because I was young. How much foundation? I mean, like, I was 19. What could I really do? 19, 20 years old. But my point is, I can affect more change in a male, right? Especially one who has grown up in that environment, because he has to put on this hard protective shell. And who are you to tell me what to do as a man? You don't tell me. I'm my own man. How are you telling me what to do? But as a female, I can come to you and break that down and soften you a little bit so that you can see something different. I say this because I look at my brothers, right? I have 3 brothers. My older brother went to prison at the same time that I went to college. My younger brothers looked at my older brother and they looked at me. And they said, there's 1 or 2 ways I can go. And I don't want to go sit in jail with my older brother.
Yeah.
So they both went off to college.
But see, y'all have a connection. We're talking about...
We do.
I'm talking about men that have no connection with you. It's very difficult to get them to do better when there's no romantic connection. And even if there is a romantic connection, the majority of the time, they're not going to do anything different because there's a romantic connection. They have gotten you in bed and they've done all this stuff. And there's no need for me to change anything because I've gotten what I wanted.
And it's not going to work for all of them. I agree. But there are some men who will see, I can't have her, right? She doesn't want a romantic connection, but this is the type of woman I want. And I can't have this type of woman if I'm still doing this.
Right. You would have to,
and that's going to change the trajectory that they're on. And it may not change it immediately. Because even for me, growing up the way that I grew up, it took multiple people to show me that there was a different life. Because for a time, I'm going to be honest with you, my goal in life was to have a baby and to go live in the hood. I was going to go get on Section 8 and live right over there in the projects, and I was going to have a happy life.
And that's because you would have been a product of your surroundings.
Exactly. But because I had other people around me, even if they weren't directly connected to me or they weren't directly speaking to me, I saw a different life. I saw something else that I wanted. And while for a time I still wanted that hood dude, I also saw the straight and narrow. And I wanted something after a while, right? The projects no longer appeal to me, especially once I went off to college, because what I look like living in the projects, that life is not for me. That's not why I was created, right?
Right.
So I dropped that mindset. When I dropped that mindset, it forced me to look at the type of man that I would want.
Right.
And y'all, you can't be it. You're not coming up with me. I'm trying to bring you up. I promise you I am. But you're not coming fast enough, right? So I got to go and find a different guy. But for, not all, for the guy or a couple of guys that I left behind, right? Dang, I've even had them come back, not recently, come back and say, you know what? If I had stayed, I wouldn't be here right now. I would be in a different place. Thank you for the influence that you had. I'm paraphrasing.
You definitely paraphrase.
I am definitely paraphrasing.
I think, see, this kind of goes into the lane of the product of your environment and then being able to envision or see somebody outside of your environment doing better. But I think in that scenario, I think both men and women play a role in that, just being able to look up to somebody. But dudes aren't typically looking up to somebody that is their age who is also an opposite sex.
So they're not looking up to me. They're looking after me. It's a difference. It's not you.
What you mean looking after you?
It's like I said, I can't. He's saying I can't have you, but I want a woman like you. So I'm not looking up to you. I'm not aspiring to be like you. I'm aspiring to be beside you.
Okay, I can see that, but I wonder like what would be the percentage of men that have that type of, because to affect that kind of change, you literally have to be kind of close to this person. Sisterly almost.
Have you ever paid attention to some of the guys who talk about like teachers and how they had this one specific female teacher who didn't take no crap off of them, and they got it's kind of the same.
No, it's not, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't think it's the same. I get what you're saying, and I do agree that in that scenario, yes, I think that you would be able to see better. But then in that scenario, you have a young mind, undeveloped. I'm talking about the men that are the males. I'll say that the males that are developed enough that don't have that teacher. You know what I'm saying? And in this particular conversation, we're also talking about the women that get into relationships with these dudes and try to change them, because that's where we came from.
That still goes into the fact of, I think we can mentor without, we have to. I think as women, we have a natural need to nurture and take care of. But
to your detriment, though, in this situation.
Our problem is we can't seem to do that without the romantic aspect. We have to learn to drop the romantic aspect and just be the mentor. And maybe mentor is a bad word.
That is a bad word. Because you have to, in the mentorship, you will have to be mentoring somebody to be something that they are supposed to be aspiring to be. And typically a mentor is going to be somebody that is already what you are trying to get to. Because you just take this out of the relationship scenario. You're not going, if you want to be the best kung fu fighter, you're not going to go and get a soccer player to mentor you. You know what I'm saying? That's very wide. But taking it back in this scenario,
but I'm gonna take that scenario and tell you that this soccer player can't teach me how to be a kung fu master, whatever it was, right?
I don't know what I'm talking about, y'all.
But the soccer player has the discipline and the drive that I aspire to have. And so, no, he can't mentor me to become the best jujitsu or whatever martial arts term you use. But there's a part of what he has that I need.
And you can take that from in every discipline.
I can.
Right. But what I'm saying is.
But in order to be a well-rounded individual, right, I don't need to just have my jujitsu master. I need some other influences.
You are correct to be well-rounded. But like you said, the mentor is, I think, would be the wrong word.
Wrong word, mentor. I don't know what to call it. Just influence.
A person who encourages. But yeah, influencer would be a better term to use for that scenario, because I don't personally think that a woman can mentor a man into being a man. you kind of need a man for that, a man that is doing what he's supposed to be doing, because I need to be able to look at somebody who is already where I want to be if I'm going to be calling them my mentor. I don't know what discipline anybody would be in where they would have a mentor that is not already in that discipline. I do think that the role of the woman in these men's life is integral, but as you said, taking them out of the romantic aspect is very much key. I don't know how women can do that because they seem to be very, very attracted to these hyper masculine men. And I guess, and I hate to talk about this, but this is where the patriarchy would fall into place. Because in this patriarchy that women like to talk about so much, and how men do all these things that are detrimental to society, to women and to other men through the patriarchy, the problem is the women are upholding these parts of the patriarchy that they want to do away with. Like this, you want to be romantic and try to change the man that is no good for you or society.
I don't think we can do both, y'all, as
No.
much as we want to. And in some instances, it does work. But in most instances, it doesn't.
I would say
you have poured into him for the next woman, and now you mad.
Right. But even in that, a lot of times they don't even change, but I don't think that it can work. I think it's a very, 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 very small percentage of times when this would actually work. I don't see how the romantic aspect would be removed in this scenario for the majority of people. My thing is, I think that you need to just
things like after school. Well, it is.
I'm saying
younger,
right. I'm saying I don't think there's no way you how would you even come in contact with somebody that you're not related to?
Volunteer work. You go into the jails, you go into the prisons, you go into these GED programs. You go where they are.
And what happens? These women, because they got a show dedicated to this.
You gotta leave the romantic part off.
They start
so far off topic.
They start mentoring these types of men. No, I think we're still in topic. They start mentoring these types of men, and then they start to form these bonds that go outside.
I don't know how to tell you to turn that off, but we got to figure out a way to turn that off and just be the encouragement.
Well, I see where he's coming
influence.
from. He grew up in a hard, in a hard home. The relationship with his mom was hard. His dad wasn't there, and he's just a big old teddy bear. So now we pen pals, and now we married in the jailhouse, and I'm gonna wait for him to get out. That type of stuff. Now that don't happen all the time, and I'm not saying that black women are doing this, but I'm just simply saying, it's very difficult to do what you're saying. I don't know how you get this romantic part out of it. I personally think that women, especially when you're dealing with situations where these are grown men, supposedly, and they're in these types of lives, I think you need to stay away from them. I don't think it's a safe scenario. I don't think it's a safe scenario. I think it's going to take some men who have the wherewithal to sit down with these men and try to get them to change their mind, because obviously it can be done, because you have the men that go to jail or to college, and they convert to Islam and stuff like that. So obviously their mind can be changed, but sometimes it takes drastic circumstances for their mind to be reformulated. And I don't think the majority of the time it's going to be a woman in that place to be able to do it.
I go sprinkle my seeds on my little gangsters. I work in healthcare in the hospital, at a trauma hospital. So I go sprinkle my little seeds on my little gangsters when they laid up in the bed, shot up and stabbed. No, you can have a better life.
And you think they're gonna be like,
it's a
one lady,
seed.
she was in the hospital.
No,
I'm not
it's
saying.
just the seed.
I'm not
And
saying.
maybe I'm the first seed that's dropped. I don't know. Maybe I'm the 150th seed that dropped. I don't know. All I know is I got to answer to somebody at some point in time. And what you won't do is say I didn't at least try.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying what you're talking about is wrong. But I just think that it's very, very difficult, and I don't think that it is particularly safe for women to step into those scenarios because they end up getting hurt the majority of the time, and it ends up crushing them for the rest of the population because a lot of times they go into these scenarios and they're overlooking. They're trying to change the person that they shouldn't be trying to change when the person that they're trying to change that person into already exists, but they are overlooking that person.
But it's not a lot of them.
It's not a lot of who?
Because we do have to.
Not a lot of who? A lot of men like that?
Yeah, we do have to accept the fact that a lot of our men, unfortunately, are in situations where they're in jail, they're in prison, they're in some type of.
But that number has been rolling back.
Thank God. Let's
so.
continue to roll it back. I don't agree with the whole let's throw them away. And I say that because my brother, like I said, when I went off to college, my brother went off to prison, and now he is happily married to the woman he met in prison.
Okay.
Is she not an amazing example of that?
That situation is an amazing example. But again, that is a very, very, very small percent. Don't y'all get no ideas? Okay. All right. It don't work like this all the time.
Married, and I love my sister-in-law.
Don't play yourself.
She's the best thing that ever happened to my brother. He really lucked up with her.
Now listen now.
Just saying.
Don't play yourselves. This don't happen.
It was
very
messy
much.
though. Like,
just
don't act like it wasn't messy.
It was a whole bunch of hurdles. So just get yourself together. Don't even try. Just stop.
I don't encourage it. I don't think that it's fair for you to say stay away. I don't. Because again, I think while I do agree to an extent that men need men, I also feel like some men are not going to be able to be reached initially by a man. They're going to need a woman's touch. It's just me.
I'm not saying throw them away. I'm not saying to society, get them out of here. What I want to happen is these men take accountability for themselves and do better before they try to get into a romantic relationship with a woman and particularly damage her.
Agree with that.
Because you're damaged goods. And if you're damaged goods, you don't need to get with somebody who may not be damaged goods. But I want to know they damaged. I want to go back to you saying that there were not a lot of men that I guess you're saying that were stand-up gentlemen. I'm not gonna say that there are a lot. I'm not gonna say the opposite of that either. But what I can say is they're out there.
They are.
They are very much so out there. But the thing is, there are not a lot of women that are stand-up women either.
This is true.
So that's the thing. So we get the whole pointing fingers thing. It really, really kind of irks me because one side likes to play like they are superior to the bunch, and typically that is women, and it's been that way for a while because men have been dogs and scum of the earth, especially black men, since as far back as I can remember. I remember hearing this as a child about how terrible black men are. And you see it in ads, you see it in all the portrayals in these movies. But the thing is, women need to understand that y'all have some trash character as well. Y'all have y'all engage in some trash activities as well. And if it's not a lot of good men out there, it's not a lot of good women. There's always some sort of a balance. It's more of y'all, a few 100,000 more of y'all in America. But again, just like there are what y'all like to call gutter rats from the hood that are men, there are gutter rats from the hood that are women. And some of y'all ain't even from the hood, and y'all got a gutter rat mindset. And that's for men and for women. So we got to understand that it's not just men. And it's definitely not just black men, because just like there are gutter rat mindsets in the black men, they exist in the white men, the Indian men, the Asian men, the Mexican men. And I can go on and on. This mindset, it spans across the universe, I'm sure.
It's aliens out there in the gutters, is what you saying.
Right. Y'all please get it together. But that's on male and female. I mean, what are your morals? What's your character like? What type of traits do you have? What's your future look like? A lot of people have no idea what that looks like for them. And a lot of people actually think that their character and their morals and their traits are actually on a higher level than other people, when they're not. You're just not. You are just as bad as everybody else out there. You got your poison just like he got his poison. We got a little bit off topic, but want to circle back around to the beginning part of the video. Like I said before, be wary of therapists or relationship coaches that are trying to coach you out of a scenario that you might be the problem in. Do some self-reflection and see if you don't have something to do with that. Is it possible that
men and women?
Right, that's both. Because it's some men out there that like to talk about how and why they don't date black women and what they are and their ghetto and all this mess. That's a bunch of nonsense as well. So do some self-reflection, because you might be the problem. And let me just tell you, if you don't do the self-reflection and you take your mess over to the other side, those people don't deserve that. They was over there minding their business, and you take your crap over to the other side, and you think you finding that the grass is greener, and now they have formulated an opinion about your whole group because you fit right into the stereotype. So before you go abandoning ship and listening to relationship gurus, which we are not.
This is just our unsolicited advice.
Right. Really our opinion, because it's not really advice. Before you go abandoning ship, make sure you're not the problem. And also understand basic math. Because if you was only in a relationship with 5 to 6 serious people in your life, you cannot use that to just measure the whole board. And don't be looking and saying, well, I've listened to other anecdotal experiences from other women and we're all having the same problems. Well, they all only had 5 or 6 people too. Do you know how many?
Y'all all dating the same man?
Right. Or the same type of woman. Do you know how many millions of people you have not experienced or talked to yet? Get outside your bubble and stop all this negativity about one specific group of human beings. Just cut it out. Because if you take on that mindset that a whole group of human beings falls into this one particular type of categorization, then you the problem. Sorry to say. Actually, I'm not sorry to say. You're the problem. And I think that you should probably think about seeking some type of help. Because again, the percentage of people who actually go to therapy is extremely low. And it's extremely low across the board in any race, which means that it would definitely be way lower in the black community. So get help. Get help. Consider that. But I have nothing else to say. We are almost at an hour. We got to get up out of here. You want to close us out, ma'am?
My takeaway, don't box yourself out. Date who you want to date. Don't just be like, hey, I'm not going because I've had bad experiences over here. Get outside of your bubble. Get outside of your environment. Try something different. Try something different within your own race. Just try. That's all I'm saying. That guy that you done set over there in the friend zone might be your husband. That's all I'm saying. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button, and we will see y'all next time.
Peace.
Night.
But one last thing. I want y'all to understand that I wasn't saying don't date these other people. Date whoever you want to date, but make sure your reason for dating them actually makes sense. And I'm out. Peace.
Night.